So, got a couple of comfort takers here. So the symptom, let's get the light on. Okay, so the lady said the symptom is something smelled terrible. She's not sure if it was the top floor or the bottom floor. So we're just gonna look at them one at a time and jump out the fans and see if it was one of the fan motors heating up, making the terrible smell. So we might as well start with the first one right here. All right, on these furnaces, it is really just so easy to pull the blue wire off of the door switch. That's what goes to the board, and the black is the line coming in. So I took the black wire off of cool. I don't know if you can see that right there. The cool right there. So that's your black wire. So the motor and the capacitor are okay. The relay on the board, even though it's clicking, it is not giving us fan. So I'm looking and I'm seeing all of that, which looks to be what is that? Maybe a piece of varmint tape or something, some kind of first thing I thought is this is part of a filter or something, but it doesn't look like that. And I do not recognize what this is, other than some kind of piece of can't tell where that's torn from. Maybe some type of air freshener thing that goes against the filter. I don't really know what that is, but it was definitely up inside of a place it shouldn't have been. Figure out, or I couldn't figure out what that is. Got to looking around in here. I noticed that. And while the glue or ink or whatever on this one is white instead of orange, that's the same looking thing. It smells like an air freshener. So I think it was stuck to the filter. Now that's just what I think. If somebody recognizes this, feel free to comment and educate me, or if it's some type of bug trap, because there's another one of those. Nonetheless, you saw where we pulled it out of the furnace, but that is not the one with the problem. This is the one with the problem, and the fan does not work through the board. So we're going to take this little jewel right here and find the hot to the board coming from the door switch, give them full-time low-speed fan. Then they will have heat. It is Friday, and the two places that I deal with neither have this board, and I just don't like the universal ones. There is a universal board that we can use there. I just don't like it. So I'm going to wait and get this one. They say that since it is early enough today, they can have it Monday from another store, which suits me, and today's Friday. Oh, the tape gave way. I was about to say, uh-oh. So anyway, let's go back to our normal situation. Let's take this and find a way to give them continuous fan. Okay, so right here is the pin where the blue wire from the door switch comes over and feeds the furnace. That's the line voltage. So what I do is I add the little piggyback stake-on there, and I add the red wire to it. Now what that does is gives us continuous fan with the lowest speed. And the reason I like to use the lowest speed is that's the least invasive for it to be running continuously. It's just a 2-burner furnace, so I'm going to think this is a 50,000 BTU furnace. Yep, 50,000. So it'll be fine like that. Now, in the case that we do that, we like to unhook the other fan leads, at least the ones that could become hot from the thermostat somehow. So I put the orange and blue up here to the park, to the unused fan leads. And the black one here, I'm just going to tangle it up somewhere here out of the way where I know it cannot get shorted or it cannot get any power. And that'll be fine until we get back here. All right, so as we determined, this furnace needs a board. So we got the new board here. See if we get a little more light going on here. Got the new board. Should be a really easy swap. These are really simple to work on. ICP furnaces, you know, from back in the day. You know I like to call them comfort takers, and you know, I like to carry on as much as the next guy, but honestly, ICP is not really a bad product. They're certainly not the worst, that's for sure. So, you know, while a lot of guys might take pictures and stuff like that so they know where everything goes, it's just easier if you know what it all does. And this was the full-time fan apparatus that we had installed. We stuck that little thing on there and gave it full-time power. And so that was the red fan speed. And so right here, we had tangled this one up so it wouldn't get in the way. So we didn't have a park for it. We had 2 on park and 1 full time. So there's all 4 of the speeds to the fan motor. Got that unplugged easy enough. All the whites basically neutrals, pretty much all in the same spot. So there's not a lot you really have to remember, especially not once you understand what they're all doing. And that blue comes from the switch. Transformer power right there. And you know what? It's handy to do. is you can stick a couple of them in place on the new board. If there's a couple of that look a lot alike or whatever to you, you know, you can do a few little things like this. Your neutrals, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory once you understand the unit and how it works, but you can plug a few back on. You could do it with all of them, but you know, it's not really necessary for me. And it appears like this new board is gonna have, hopefully, get lucky, and it's got the same mount configuration as the old one. Maybe not, because we see on the back of this new board we have these little channels for screws to go through. And so what you end up doing in that case is you end up taking out your plastic, I call them standoffs, I don't know what these actually are. You end up just popping those out and throwing them away. And unfortunately, the holes left there are too big for most of the screws that we've got, you know, that are common, that we use on hand. Tell you what, and you know, with that big of a screw, not so sure they're going to go through. Well, these are pretty big too. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and of course nothing in the box. So I'm going to take these bit tips that you know, they're going to have to be drilled through here, but they're long enough to pass the standoff, the metal standoff, just barely. So I think I'm going to be all right with that. So I'm going to mount one ahead of time just to make it a little easy. All right, so I didn't have any of the thin thermostat screws, so what I'm ending up using are long zip screws. But it's gonna be okay. I did get them through. And I'm not totally comfortable using a drill to tighten them, so I'm just going to stick them all four in place, and then I'll run them all the way in with a nut driver, just so I don't crank down too hard and crack the board. That's just a little too much power for a circuit board. I guess I could have used one of the other drills with the adjustable clutch on it and all that. Seems like a lot of trouble to drive 4 screws in. So I just did what's handy, quick and easy. And then, like I say, I'm just playing it safe, driving those in with a nut driver. instead of a bit in the screwdriver, in the drill. All right. So the whites, the neutrals, you pretty much can't really mix them up. They all kind of go to the same place, so to speak. I do just out of habit, or you know, just whatever. I just stick them back where they were to the best I can. But like I say, they're pretty much a neutral is a neutral. So unless there's a different sized Stay-Con or something on one of them that makes it appear like it really makes a difference, I usually just put them on back on there and let them go. So the unused motor leads in this case is going to be the red and orange. They go there, and then the heat is going to be blue, and the cool is going to be black. And unless you have a a different situation where you're tuning airflow for whatever kind of different reasons, black is generally your cool speed, which is the highest one, and blue, which is the next one down. I'm using that for heat. Now, there is a continuous on this board, so we could put one of these speeds on the continuous, and that just means when the fan switch is flipped from auto to on, it's a circulating fan. So we got it all wired back up. Put our transformer leads back on here. Those don't really matter which way is which. So another habit I've always had is before I put the thermostat wires on, I'll put my jumper on the red. Boy, that rubber gets cold. These jumpers aren't as pliable. And then I'll just touch these and kind of check the functions, so to speak. It's just a habit I've always had, something I always do. And they got an Ecobee down there, and rather than power up, power down, power up, power down on their Ecobee, I'll just wait till everything's tested out well, and I know everything's fine and working. Then we'll hook the thermostat wires up and just put the door on and be done. So put the power back on. I don't see the fuse on this board. There it is, hidden by the wires. So let's see if we, yep, there's our induced draft, and it's, geez, now we got a problem with that. I'll show you. Look at that. Barely turning. Oh boy. Tell you, this thing was fine the other day when I was here, and now it's going to need a draft motor. So let's at least see. spin it and make it go. Try to make the furnace fire up once. See if everything's okay here. There it goes. Feel the fan running. That was pretty quick for the fan. I might need to look through these dip switches. But now I have bad news for the customer. They're going to need that induced draft motor. That is just not what we wanted here. So, quicker than reading. This one's only got 3 and that's got 4, so we're going to have to read the paperwork with it. See what it says about these dip switches. Okay, blower delay. So that's all pretty simple and straightforward. I'm not going to tie up a bunch of video time going through that. Real easy. So let's get all that set up the way we want it. Alright, I haven't sprayed it with anything, but after running a couple of times, it does start right up, but it's making some noise. And tell you what, that's definitely going to have to be replaced for them to have dependable operation here. So I've already called the supplier, actually 2 of them. And this is an older furnace, and that thing is expensive, and it is not in stock. So hopefully this will heat them for the night or 2. And I may try to lube this motor up a bit. I'm just worried that the problem in the noise is inside there with the blades, but some rust or something, but maybe not. So we'll pop this off and lube this thing up and see if it'll run a day or 2 till we can get them one. And put all the thermostat wires back on, which is pretty simple. Go ahead and kill that door switch. Now, in red, now I didn't put this duct tape on there. Somebody's done that. There should be a wire nut inside of it. Yeah, I think I do feel one. It's one of those small gray wire nuts in there, and they taped it for whatever reason. So that runs through the float switch, these 2 yellow wires that's out here in the pan. So obviously the red goes out to the float switch and back from the float switch on this other yellow wire. So we stick that under the red. And so there's a little bit of something to watch for you DIY guys. Just always remember, I don't think you should be doing it. I'm against it. I know I can't stop you. So when you watch my video and learn how to do it and do it yourself, that's fine. And if you make a mistake and mess it up, then call one of us and we'll come fix it. It may actually have cost you less if we had fixed it in the first place, but you know, circuit boards, most places are not going to sell those to homeowners. They'll get online and order them. They'll do anything, wait and go days without heat just to keep from paying one of us. And that's one of the reasons I'm against it. You're just not saving that much money, but you know, okay, maybe so. But you know, you can't return an electrical part, an electronic part, to most suppliers. So if you mess up the wiring and burn it up or whatever, they're not going to take it back. So while I'm against the DIY guys, make no mistake, I'm 100% in full belief that you should let a professional do his job. But, you know, we're not going to stop you. Can't beat them, join them, so we might as well try to help a little bit. And So I don't think you should be working on gas appliances, but that's how you change the board. There's the burnt spot on the back of this one that lines right up with one of these relays. So one of these will be heat and one of these will be cool. And there was a continuous on this one too, but they didn't have a speed on there. So I put it back like it was. So nonetheless, now we got to get a draft motor. So let's hope this thing will give them heat till we can get one. And we're going to start to approach for a 02 model furnace. 15, 16, 17 years old, we're going to start to approach what I think is more money than is worth putting into it, but I'm sure they'd rather repair it. We've already been through that, so that's what we're going to do. So let's make sure it fires up and we'll go. All right, as I said, they've got an Ecobee, which might take a minute to fire up, boot up, whatever you want to call it. So we'll give this a minute, and if it doesn't boot up, we'll go down there and make sure it's turned on and calling for heat. And hopefully this thing's gonna work for them. All right, so it did run overnight for them. They said it was quite noisy. Actually 2 nights. And we got the flue motor, or the induced draft assembly, whatever we like to call it. There's the one we got. Came in an OEM box, just a Fastco, you know, real typical ones we see. Looks identical to me, you know, a little bit different, but it looks like it's certainly identical fit. So we're going to change this out right quick, see if it'll quiet this unit down. All right, I got the new one on. I'll tell you what, I've been doing this for 29 years. And I don't know what it was at the top there. There was no glue and not one single screw going through it. But I have never seen a piece of double wall so stuck to the pipe. I mean, I really was fighting. I was trying to get it apart here. Look at how butchered up the inner jacket there, trying to get it to break loose. So hopefully I can get this thing back on. And I mean, I had to beat the fire out of it to get it to bust loose. 29 years, really over 30 doing this, but tell you what, that was something else. So now I got to try to straighten it out and get that down on there. All right, I got it back down pretty low. You can see the inner jacket there, but well, I tell you what, that was something else. So let's get the vacuum switch mounted. I even bent this top up a little bit. Let's try to straighten that. Well, that sounds much better. Assuming it's going to fire. Yep. So let's untape the door switch before a couple of them yell at us for that. Tell you what, these comments on YouTube are really something else. From the armchair warriors or armchair technicians, that they are so perfect and none of us are, nobody but them. So, you know, I ain't gonna lie, for many, many years, If I taped a door switch, it stayed taped. But right here in front of the camera, I'm not gonna do it. However, I don't share the opinion, and the homeowner really shouldn't be in here fiddling around with a gas appliance anyway, but it is a safety, I understand that. But a qualified technician, which is all that should be working on these, is going to pay attention to that kind of stuff and is going to know, you know, what's going on when he's got his hands in a unit. So that's kind of like a safety for the guy that needs the safety. But anyway, took the tape off, so some of you guys that like to comment about that, you ought to be happy. So let's get the door on and okay, so 3-inch flue pipe, so whenever this change out does come about, I'll have to contend with that. Got 2 of them here. And you know, I've seen these old ICPs, I've seen Ream, seen a few of them with 3-inch induced draft pipes, but never seen it on a train or any of the ones I've ever sold, so just whenever that happens, we'll have to deal with that. But it's up and running and quiet, won't keep them up at night. She said she could hear that thing fire up in the middle of the night, and she was glad to see us. So, out with the old and in with the new. Thanks for watching.